Welcome to Preparing for the Unexpected. Today, James Green and I welcome to the show Marie-Helene Primeau from Premier Continuum. Welcome, Marie. How are you?
Good yourself. Thank you for inviting me over.
My pleasure. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Premier Continuum?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Marie-Helene Primeau. I'm a professional in business continuity. I've been working in the field for more than 20 years now. I've been advising organization and putting in place their program, as well as exercising, also very involved in certification. So I'm also an instructor for the Business Continuity Institute, as well as ICOR. And have been involved in standards development, so in technical committees. Also been involved in the various chapters, and progressing the profession. And that probably comes from my background as an accountant. So that was my primary what I studied in. So that's a bit about myself. I've also at Premier Continuum was obviously we're specialized in business continuity and related fields, so IT disaster recovery, operational resilience, emergency management, and risk management. And we have three lines of service. We have our consulting services, we have the training, the certification with ICOR and the BCI, and we have a software repair solution that assists organization in managing their program.
Well, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you because today we're going to be talking about something you just mentioned, operational resilience.
Yeah.
James, do you want to get us
Absolutely.
started?
We hear a lot of people use that term, and I feel like everyone has a different definition of operational resilience. So we'd love to hear from you. What is operational resilience, and why is it important?
Yeah, well, it is a hard question to answer. What is exactly operational resilience? It is the ability of the organization to be able to continue, but also to bounce back when a disruption occurs. So it expands business continuity a bit to have a broader definition that would typically within business continuity. The reason why it's so much top of mind now, well, obviously there are some regulations that are now requiring organizations to look into operational resilience, but also because there's an expectations that people be there for you. So operational resilience is to be able to continue and not have any disruption where business continuity may imply some interruption.
So how does automation play a role in enhancing operational resilience?
Well, one of the main key challenges in operational resilience and people getting ready is understanding all the dependencies that exist, as well as helping out in prioritization. For example, one of the requirements of the Bank of England is to identify what are the important business services. So understanding what are the key priorities of the organization in order to sustain if ever, things were to go wrong. So understanding what are those products and services, so setting priorities for that, but then understanding which are the underlying business functions or processes that help you deliver those, and then what are the dependencies that these do have, so in terms of systems, people, other third parties, and vendors that may be related to, as well as internal dependencies as well. So there's lots of stuff to be able to take into account, and having access to a system will help you make those linkages, because obviously it's not just one person that knows that. You need to have lots of contributors, and making all these linkages can be very hard to highlight the gaps and the capabilities as well. Another component that those regulations require from an operational resilience as well is scenario testing, so understanding what those are. So again, preparing and documenting these within the system, and then running simulation to understand if one scenario or multiple ones were to occur simultaneously, then it gives you more visibility as to one of the points. I can go on other benefits, like even like all the action items that you'll identify from those of doing those gap assessment. We'll be able to track them and ensure that you increase your state of resilience after that.
Yeah, you mentioned those business processes and those underlying interdependencies. And as we all know, when you're looking at a global organization, it's such a hard thing to capture manually. So I'd love to hear from you, like, what are some of the benefits that you see of automation when it comes to operational resilience and business continuity?
I think I've already answered some of those in my previous answer, but I think really having an understanding of where the gaps are. So understanding how dependent you are upon the other one and to avoid having false expectations. So let's say, for example, just clearly identifying, well, I do need this IT system within 4 hours. Well, maybe IT doesn't have that capability. So by knowing what is IT's capability, highlighting it, then either the business will work on a workaround, or there might be some further investments that would, help you drive, and increase your resilience. So drive the projects, require the investments. So that'd be one benefit. Also, that information sharing makes it that when there's less false expectation, then people, are better prepared and also able to respond better when an actual incident occurs. And also being able to, either at time of incident or, in the planning stage, make the best decisions.
I love that you use that term false expectations, because I think that's one of the biggest failure points that we see is a company has these false expectations of what their capabilities or resilience are during an incident. And then an incident happens and they find out they really were false expectations or wildly overstated expectations. I love that term.
Now, I'm just curious because I know you've worked with many clients in many different industries. Do you have a real world example you could share with us?
Yeah, well, definitely, when again, it leads into those false expectations as well. But when they were, everyone thought they'd be in the, they were in good posture. They had written their plans, they had all their strategies written with the procedures, and then they ran, they ran an exercise and realized that they hadn't really, validated that the strategies were okay. Like they were documented, but not, they weren't actionable. So really, doing that exercise and making sure that that aha moment actually happens during an exercise rather than doing it the day of the, an actual event happening. Also, understanding the, and then these, it's operational resilience, but it also, conveys when during COVID, we actually had clients leveraging the technology to ask on a daily basis to understand how many cases there were within their organization, where they were located, how many were tested. So that really helped them having a state of the state of the situation very rapidly and efficiently, so that they could maintain critical services, be resilient to to continue what mattered to the organization. So really being able to reach out to people, get their immediate, relevant, and accurate status was really something that was beneficial to maintain their operations.
I
That's
like what both
interesting.
you, sorry, James, I liked what both you and James were talking about there about the gaps. It's like sometimes people just move forward using nothing but assumptions, right? And then you find out, oops.
I was just going to say, it's really interesting that you did mention COVID and that it wasn't a one-time status check. And I think that's where some people in our industry may have stumbled. If you have a fire in a building, it's a one-time event. You ask people, are you safe? Yes or no? But like you mentioned with COVID, it wasn't just a one-time question. It was a multi-year question that had to be asked over time. So I think that's a great example of where automation is really powerful, that to be able to ask that question every single day of every single person. How are you feeling? Do you have any symptoms? Are you able to work? You had to ask that all the time. We saw a lot of organizations try to do that manually, or trying to do an all employee email, and it really slowed them down. So, you mentioned at the top your experience, and you work with a lot of organizations. So what's some advice you would give to the viewers to an organization when they integrate automation to improve OpRes? Because we've seen a lot of companies buy tools and fail, or try to add a tool to their existing kit and completely fail. And we know those stories, and those are expensive stories. We call those resume changing events a lot of times for people who bought those tools and it didn't
Yeah.
go as well. So what's some advice you would give someone on how to best integrate automation into their program?
Well, I think you do need to see this as an iterative process where you need to focus on, understanding and not over complexifying either. So ensuring that the right people with the knowledge can answer the information. So reaching out to the business units, to the functions to get their input, but then provide them with appropriate tools so that, when they're justifying the criticality, that they have an impact matrix, for example, to be doing that, and then having the ability to reach out to both on the, so you do need to engage with several different types of stakeholders when you're performing the work, but obviously, laying the ground, understanding what the requirements are, what you intend to do, and not just take what the vendor, is offering, but think of how it, will work in practice within your organization. So ensuring that you're not just purchasing it from the box, but you're actually having a vendor that's going to be available to guide you through the process as well, to make sure that it makes sense for your organization.
I'm just curious, what's your biggest aha moment when it's come to operational resilience from all the things that you've experienced and been through?
Well, there's different types of aha moment, like something that, like for me from the start, I started working in business continuity, as I said, more than 20 years ago. For me, business continuity was always a bit what operational resilience is, in the sense that for me, I started working with manufacturing organizations. So obviously you need to have an evacuation, you need to have your people, and then you need to have your, then you continue operations. So that integration with security facilities was something that was always kind of natural to me. And there was really a purpose for that. And when they actually had someone come to me and said, that person had been working in business continuity like for I think 10 years. And he came to me and said, I realized that business continuity is there to continue the promise that we do to our clients. And I'm like, well, isn't that why we're doing this? So realizing that for others, it wasn't that obvious that people were doing it for compliance purposes. So I hope that people that, if you've been in the field for so many years, I think you're convinced of the value that it's not just for compliance purposes that you're doing this. But that was one for me, like that someone could be in that field and didn't think about that. Another, and something that's actually scaring me off more on the OpRes side is because of so it's not that much of an aha, but something that's scaring me. I think lots of people are saying that OpRes is actually doing business continuity the right way, or how it should have been done, like understanding dependencies and mapping and that and like that relationship. I mean, I think it's another opportunity for us to raise the profile of business continuity. Now we can integrate and work together. So we really need to be cautious about how we make business, operational resilience as well, because I'm hearing people, because of compliance purposes, they're actually they're trying to see how much they can stretch the elastic. So like for me, resilience is like to be able to dock and continue on, being able to roll and continue walking. But now I'm hearing people saying that, well, I need to assess how much time I could interrupt before actually, because otherwise it's too costly from a preparedness standpoint to be able to meet regulatory obligations. So it's more of a kind of you need to be careful with what regulations may drive in terms of understanding of the requirement for OpRes. So I think it's more on that kind of advice of making sure that we're not stewing things just to be compliant either. So I'd say that's more of that. Like it's more of a scare than a haha for that piece. That's what I'm seeing at the moment. But seeing that it's not always obvious for everyone. So I think we still need to have our pilgrim stick and that people understand the value. But I think there's more and more, it's more and more board concern. COVID helped in some fashion. Some people thought that they were so good that they don't need anymore to have a plan. But looking at those different scenarios, looking at things that could go wrong, obviously cyber attack being, on people's top of mind. So we're at a good turning point, a good time in our field of practice, but we need to be cautious of how we deed that going forward.
Mhm. James, any final questions for Marie-Helene?
No, just some great insight into operas and automation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for joining us, Marie-Helene. I do have one question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
If any of our viewers or listeners want to get in touch with you or Premier Continuum, how can they do that?
Of course. Well, thank you for asking. Well, obviously they can reach out to me through LinkedIn. I do have a LinkedIn account. And then I also invite you to go to our webpage. It's premiercontinuum.com. So you might see it there at the top. And it'll be our pleasure to provide you some more insight and, give you some information on the services that we provide.
Well, wonderful. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And James, always a pleasure.
Always a good time. Thanks, Alex. Thank you, Marie-Helene.
And everyone watching and listening, stay prepared, everybody.